you need to bring in that documentation,
Okay.
unless the court wants to, it's open for, okay. Is that,
Yes.
And I'm not sure that this court can grant that authority,
For
I
an-
think, because it's a technicality, Mr. Dedman, but because this court is over as of the 31st, and you have a new
Right.
court as of the 1st, it would be incumbent upon the next court, when you're actually sworn in, they are to
Right.
grant the authority.
Okay.
bring, but get the documentation
Okay.
for the new court
All
tonight.
right, thank you.
Thank you. We have second reading of the ordinance about the vacation policy.
Let me find it here, Judge. This is ordinance number 14-06, an amendment to Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance number 12-02, previously adopted on April 26, 2012, and amended by ordinance number 13-08 on November 25, 2013, and designated as administrative code. Whereas the County of Scott by and through the Fiscal Court has previously adopted a new administrative code on April 26, 2012, and whereas said code was amended on November 25, 2013, whereas the current administrative code, as amended, now requires additional language to clarify employee vacation time. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Scott County, Kentucky, that ordinance number 12-02, as amended, shall be and is hereby amended to include the following provisions. Under section 3.7 sub B, vacation annual leave. All employees occupying established positions shall receive vacation as follows. During the first 10 years of continuous employment, employees who work 35 hours per week will be allowed 70 hours vacation leave per year. Employees who work 40 hours per week shall be allowed 80 hours vacation leave per year. Employees assigned to 24-hour shifts shall be allowed 144 hours vacation leave per year. Beginning with the 11th year of continuous employment and annually thereafter, employees who work 35 hours per week shall be allowed 105 hours vacation leave per year. Employees who work 40 hours per week shall be allowed 120 hours vacation leave per year, and employees assigned to 24-hour shifts shall be allowed 216 hours vacation leave per year. Number 2, no other changes to the remainder of section 3.7 sub B, vacation annual leave. If any provision of this amendment to the administrative code is held invalid or unconstitutional by any court, competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of any other provision thereof. This amended ordinance shall become effective upon passage and publication according to law.
Just a word of explanation, particularly for the two new court members. Back when we went through the recession, we made several changes to save money, and one of them was to allow a week of vacation the first 4 years. And the budgets have improved, and this goes back to the way it's been for the past probably 25 plus years. That starting, you get a week's vacation, or 2 weeks vacation, like it was prior to us making these changes. We made a lot of changes, and that was I think the only one that hasn't been changed back since the budget has been improved. And we have people who work 35 hours a week, they get a week vacation, or 2 weeks vacation. We have some that work 40-hour weeks. Everybody gets 2 weeks vacation, and we have some that work 24-hour shifts. So this puts it back like it was before the recession, and that's just a word of explanation that, on that. Need a motion to approve second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. And then we have second reading of the ethics ordinance.
Before I start, and I'm going to do this by summary only, the only changes that were made on page 7, that in paragraph C, change in language, all candidates shall file a financial disclosure statement on or before 28 days from the filing deadline. Filing shall be considered complete by way of the postmark on the envelope and or date attached to the email. Just below that, I've put all candidates there. No denotation whether they're new candidate after the primary, just all candidates must file. And then in paragraph 8, A financial disclosure statement shall be open records. Those individuals who have timely filed his or her financial disclosure statement shall be identified on the county's website. So those were the only modifications made from the previous draft. And I think Mr. Johnson was kind enough to read over that along with the other commission members, and I think that's acceptable to commission.
It was acceptable, yes.
Okay. So by way of summary, this is ordinance number 14-05, an amendment to an ordinance relating to the establishment of a code of ethics for elected and appointed county officials and employees or candidates for public office in Scott County, Kentucky. Whereas the Scott County Fiscal Court has the authority pursuant to KRS Chapter 65 to enact an ordinance establishing a code of ethics to guide the conduct of elected and appointed officers and employees of Scott County. And whereas public office and employment are a public trust, and government has a duty both to provide their citizens with standards by which they may determine whether public duties are being faithfully performed, and to apprise their officers and employees of the behavior which is expected of them while conducting their public duties. And whereas it is the purpose of this ordinance to provide a method of assuring the standards of ethical conduct for local government, officers and employees shall be clear, consistent, and uniform in their application, and to provide local officers and employees with advice and information concerning possible conflicts of interest which might arise in the conduct of their public duties. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Scott County as follows, and it flows through with those three changes as noted.
Any questions? Need a motion and to approve. Bill, for a second.
I second. Second.
Stuart, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, it's done. Unanimous vote, thank you. Glenn, have you got the contract on the roof? What? Oh, the ethics compensation, it was brought up, I'm sorry. It mentioned some compensation for the Ethics Commission at the last meeting, and whoever brought it up, if you got any thought? What? David brought it up, David.
I had a chance to talk to David last night, and he had a pretty large-scale work emergency pop up that he had to be in Richmond for this morning. And we talked about that specifically, and it'll be appropriately picked up, I think, by the next fiscal court.
You think it's
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. And the contract, Glenn?
I have a copy of it, Your Honor.
Just a word, we had severe hail damage on the station at Homestead. We've got 2 bids on it, and the insurance company, I believe, paid half the cost, Stacy. And then we're gonna pay the other half when the work is completed. And it hadn't been started, but we've got to approve the contract. And
I've looked over the copy. It looks fairly easy to approve. This is through Apex Roofing, and I think this is the contractor that was chosen through KACO. Is that, am I correct?
well, we had 2, and that was the low bid,
Low
and
bid.
KACO approved that one, that's correct.
This contract with Apex is for a total of $32,096.76, and as Judge Leslie has mentioned, it's for the fire station out on Homestead. Payment schedule looks like the first insurance draft was upon completion of roofing, $21,967 and some pennies. The depreciation draft would be upon completion and receipt, that's $9,629.04. Is that the court's portion of it?
No, the fiscal court only pays $500.
Okay,
Deductible.
deductible, all right, I misunderstood that. But as far as the language and what's required, I think it's pretty standard. I don't have any questions about it, no.
Need a motion then to approve that, signing that contract. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Were you gonna bring up anything about the library appointment?
We do not have to do anything about the library appointment, may not have anything to do at all. The library board is scheduled to meet this evening, and this court may not have to take any action whatsoever.
Okay. And then JR has 5 junk salt spreaders that we need to declare junk. We can get a little bit of money out of them, sell them the iron, and need to authorize to declare that junk and take it junkyard and sell it.
So moved.
Well, I believe there's 7, according to the list I have.
Is it 7? It is 7. Told me wrong. 7, and we've got the serial numbers here on, thank you. 7 salt spreaders. Need a motion to declare those junk and authorize JR to scrap them.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? It is unanimous. JR, you had a new hire?
Yes. I'd like to ask the court's approval to hire Austin Miller, who would be replacing Charlie Joe Finley that retired 2-3 months ago. And young man would start at $11.72 per hour with benefits.
So moved.
Motion approved.
Any questions? You get the motion? Alvin and Bill Parker. All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you, JR. EMS? David? Brandon's not here, so. The electrical inspection contracts that we approved last time, there was a word in there that needed to be changed, so we're gonna have to do all 4 of them over. And Glenn, if you explain that.
I will. I can blame this on the Dunn County Attorney. I went through and made some changes on the initial, the basics of the contract as drawn to my attention by Judge Lusby, and failed to make a modification in the affidavit that each one of these electrical inspectors are required to sign. And basically, when we approved the contracts at the last meeting, we've authorized them to provide electrical inspection services in Scott County, but not necessarily be Scott County employees. But in the affidavit portion, I failed to make that change. So I think Mr. Doherty, was it not, brought that to the judges and Stacy's attention, and rightfully so. So what I've done on the affidavit portion of each one of these agreements, and this is the only modification that I've made, I have changed the paragraph to say, I am authorized to inspect on Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky property in Scott County, Kentucky as an electrical inspector. And I have deleted the information there about being anything affiliated with the Scott County employee status. Other than that, nothing else has changed. But I think we do need to approve these again so that Judge Lusby can sign these, and then each one of the 4 individuals come back to sign. So I'll take the hit on that because I failed to recognize that need.
Do we need to rescind those previous ones, or will this just
That-
supersede it? Or?
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea that the motion include that we do away with the earlier approved documents and replace them with this.
So moved.
Is there a second? John T. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous, thank you. Stacy found the name here of the EMS replacement. Dave is recommending Justin Tackett, full-time, with benefits, starting at $8.49 an hour, and he's replacing Jeremy Wharf, who resigned. Need a motion to that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. In January of each year, we set the ceilings for what the county clerk and the sheriff can spend in a year's time. And during the discussion back last year, we said, if you have major incidents come up or major changes, that we could amend it. And both did have. And the clerk, of course, they had a lot of changes, a lot of things going on with the districting and so forth. And according to our records, she went over $800.87. So I would like us to amend her cap, her salary cap. We could amend it by $1,000, and that would cover that. And that would keep her from having to pay that out of her pocket.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? And the sheriff had the same situation. His was a little different. They had the ticket or click it or ticket or whatever. And that was in the neighborhood just under $10,000. And then in July, we allowed him to hire another full-time employee. And that created a overage on that. And his overage was a little bit more than that. In fact, it was $35,884.18. So if we would amend his to just $36,000, that would cover what the overage was. And it wasn't all because of that. Some of it was overtime and other things, but the majority of it was click it or ticket, and also the fact that we hired a new employee in July. So if, any questions on that? Bill, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second? Any questions? All in favor? Okay.
Judge, on that particular issue, I think it's a great example of those two constitutionally elected officers working well with the fiscal
Well,
court.
that's a,
That's been a very comfortable relationship. And I know that the sheriff's department's had a pretty heavy workload this year. And who would have dreamed the clerk would have had all of the responsibilities that they would have this year with all the redistricting and stuff.
and for those three new magistrates that are here, we have to set that amount in January. It's pretty hard to determine exactly, but we'll be doing that probably the second meeting in January. And I've appointed a committee of the two that are returning in order to come up with a recommendation, so that will take place. Next item on the agenda, the new show barn. We're going to have a ribbon cutting at 11 o'clock today out at the show barn. So if everybody, I hope, can be there for that, and that'll be at 11 o'clock. Then the swearing-in ceremony for all deputies and elected officials be at 2 o'clock right here on Sunday, December the 28th. And we need to, I guess this court can cancel the first workshop, can't we? It's on New Year's. We're not in business.
Yeah, courthouse is gonna be closed.
Yeah.
You've already authorized that, I'm sure, so
Yeah.
that would be fine.
Yeah. The court has, we've already going to be closed on January 1st and 2nd, so we need a motion to cancel the workshop on that day.
So moved.
You won't be here anyway. Stuart, you want to?
I will be here.
All in favor? Okay. Those are all the items on the agenda. Does anyone need to bring anything up? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Stuart, do you have anything for the good of the order?
No, wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and been a pleasure serving on this court for the past 8 years. And look forward to working with those members of the new court and anything that we can do to help them. Thank you.
I told him earlier in the room, it's going to be a different after this meeting for this job, but I've enjoyed these guys and look forward to the new ones. So, wish everybody the best.
Chuck?
It's been my honor to serve for the past 8 years. I'm proud to have a perfect attendance on this court too. I've never missed a meeting, Chad. I'm telling you, I've never missed one. So I hope you can keep that coming right along, because I've enjoyed serving District 3 in Alfred Scott County, and I have done my best. Thank you.
Tom?
Yes, sir. Just to thank the court, both past courts and the current court. Mr. Hoffman and I have had the good fortune of sitting on this court since we went to this form of government, went to the magisterial form of government. It's been kind of ironic to me that in each of my 4 terms, I've had a different neighbor to my left. And now the one term that Mr. Livingston returns without opposition, I'm leaving the court. So, and congratulate Mr. Hoffman on 16 years as well. Serving on this court with all you folks has been a life-changing experience, and I'm just awfully proud of every one of you and what we've gotten done.
John D.
Well, Roy and Dale would say happy trails to you. 16 years has been rewarding on the court. We had a lot of challenges, and I think we met the challenges as a whole. We've had some very, very good members that sit on this court. I like to say they paid attention and they reacted when they had to take care of business. Wish the new court all the luck in the world. You're going to have the same challenges come toward you. I hope it's not a recession like we experienced, we had to go through. And I want to thank the employees. There were sacrifices on your part. If we had to make that decision, but we made sure that nobody lost a job. And to me, that was an accomplishment for when we had to go through what we went through. We kept it lean, but we kept it together. And today, hopefully everything will recover. The employees will get what's coming to them, and then the rest of the court will be able to take care of the business they need to take care of. Merry Christmas.
About all I can add to that is I've enjoyed this job better than any I've ever had, and I look forward to serving the people of Scott County in the future.
Thank you. And it's been my pleasure to work with this court. You know, it has been great. We've been through some tough times for you three, and we'll have other tough times. In fact, of the matter is, we talked during the campaign, we're going to be out $2.5 million for the next 4 years. That's a total of $10 million that we would not have. It's a great investment. I'm not knocking it. It's one of the best investments that the county and the city have ever made to maintain growth in the county and to maintain work for people. And then 4 years from now, when that cuts back to $1 million a year, you'll be able to move forward. And Tom, you're going to have a tough time at the city, just as we will here, meeting these. And John T., you made a great point, I think, and when we went through the recession and had to make some bold cuts, it was tough. It was tough on everybody, but we've overcome all this. The budget is back to where it should be and moving forward. So those are things that we appreciate the employees that had to tolerate it, and we've come through a lot and accomplished a lot, I think, and certainly you three that are here and the other two new ones, I look forward to it. We have had a meeting, and everybody, the new members were extremely enthusiastic and knowledgeable, and it's going to be a good 4 years, and even way beyond, I hope, for all of the new magistrates. So we do thank you for your service. The ones that's here, and look forward to working with you three and the other two, as well as the two returning. And that's the goodbyes that we have, but Glenn's got some more business, which I forgot.
Got one more matter, and it involves our medical insurance plan with United Healthcare. The court has been requested, or it's been requested of the court rather, to allow the Chamber of Commerce and our local housing authority to join with our United Healthcare plan. And in talking to Judge Lesby, Mr. Hall, Mr. Carlton, and now we've retained a firm in Lexington who specializes in this, Whitney Wallingford's firm, to draft what is going to be called, I think, an affiliation agreement that will authorize the chamber and the local housing authority to, I guess, be a part of our health plan, yet not necessarily obligate the court for all types of things, employee communication, the reimbursement of premiums will come from those agencies back to the county. There'll be no, for the lack of a better term, management type things on the court that will have to come from those different agencies, yet they will still be allowed to be a part of our medical plan. So That affiliation agreement is in the draft stage. I talked to Mr. Wallingford very briefly yesterday. He has asked, at least for today's purposes, he's working on the agreement. He had to review the documents coming from Heel and Holland by way of United Healthcare to get some of the terminology correct, but it's my understanding that he does not at this point think there's an issue there, but we would need fiscal court approval to authorize Judge Lusby to sign those affiliation agreements as long as they meet a compliance checklist put together by Mr. Wallingford. That is a conditional approval, and then obviously the final approval by Judge Lusby once those agreements have been drafted. That's probably what we need to do today. Mr. Hall, I don't know if you have anything to add or if I missed something there, but I think that's appropriate at least to get it approved where Judge Lusby can sign the affiliation agreements once they meet all of the requirements as set forth in the documents being drafted by Mr. Wallingford's firm. And that needs to be done prior to the end of the year so that on the first day of January, those employees with the chamber and/or local housing authority will be covered just like our employees will.
Just a little background. They were under the city. The city went to self-insured, and they elected, or they didn't. These two groups did not want to be under the self-insured policy, and they asked to come in with the county. And we talked to the agent, I guess it was, Henry, and she said it was fine that they did. But after a little review, you have to have an affiliation agreement in order to do that, and that's what we need to approve so that they can come under our umbrella. And Tom, you look like you got a question.
I got a bunch of them.
Okay.
Starting with, the Georgetown Housing Authority is a city agency. Mayor makes all the appointments, sits on the board. Why are we moving that insurance to the county program?
I can speak for the city. They sent a letter to the housing authority, okay? And basically the letter said, and I've got a copy of it, or it was an email, that come July 1, that they would review to see whether or not they would continue their insurance. That would bother anybody. And that was one of the main reasons that they didn't want to get in July and be told, we're not going to continue, depending on your loss ratio, I guess. And I talked to Stacy. Now, they could have stayed under the city, but that was and it's in writing, and that was what said. And Henry, I don't know if you've seen any of that or not.
Yeah, I saw what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, it is correct. As far as the housing authority.
Yeah, now the city was just 2 employees up there. And the affiliation agreement, even though the housing authority is under the city, and I asked the same question, Tom, they do things for the county in providing housing and things like that, which they are eligible. We think we're eligible. That's affiliation and economic development for the chamber.
Just, I hadn't been a part of any of these conversations, and I'm surprised that we're at this point in a public meeting. But yeah, I would ask the court, I don't know, it's odd to me that an agency just starts picking which place they'd like to be affiliated with. I'm not sure how to react other than I'm not in favor of this, and I think it's been sprung on us ridiculously late, and I don't understand.
Well, that's the explanation that they had in the letter.
When is their contract with their insurer up? In July or
January 1st.
My goodness.
Mr. Livingston mentioned this to me last night as an insurance person. He was kind of alarmed about it, and it just seems like a large end-of-the-year move that most of the court doesn't continue. A whole lot of the city administration doesn't continue, but on the 23rd of December, we're changing which agency are part of the health insurance plan.
We're not changing the insurance plan, we're just. the
Which
people-
agencies are
People
part
that
of it.
can,
And
Yeah.
I don't know, is there an agent of record issue here? What is the issue? I don't know.
What gets me is why presidents are we sitting taking over city responsibilities to me?
That's part of what this affiliation agreement will do, as I understand it, John, because I think we had the same questions, but if I grasp it correctly, the affiliation agreement would place lots of individual responsibilities back on those particular agencies, in addition to them paying their premiums. But they would have the advantage of being under the county's healthcare plan, where they would have insurance guaranteed for the year. I'm not certain as to why they've made the request. I'm not privy to that. I don't know that.
Typically, just the conventional wisdom is that in any form of a self-insured plan, the plan is stronger when more lives are involved in the plan. From a business perspective, it doesn't make any sense for me for the city to go partially self-insured and then start having agencies leave the program, which reduces the number of lives involved. It's not good. I don't know, it seems like a great big policy decision that I'm not sure who's making the decision, but it's being brought to us too late.
well, we know, the airport employees have been under the county's policy for years and years.
But
So
we
it's,
just-
it's
we
a joint
support-
agency.
I know that, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, and, in an effort to maintain insurance for them, this was brought up. We went to the agent, could we do it, and, talked to the government over there that's in place now. And that's where we stand. Well, vote against it if you
I
want.
don't have as much concern about the chamber as I do someone
The
whose
city.
board is totally appointed by the city. I do have a concern about that.
Well, the bottom line,
I don't
we've
want
got to
this-
make a decision today.
Yeah.
January 1st is a week away. Bill?
If I understand correctly, this is actually creating more of a workload for these two agencies, so they're gonna have, it's gonna actually cost them more money if they're doing some of the stuff that the city's doing. Did I hear that?
I don't know what you
Well,
created.
I think they're going to have to carry certain responsibilities, Bill, that our plan administrator will not have to do as far as the other county employees. They're gonna have to do all the communications, they're gonna have to meet the HIPAA guidelines for all their own employees. They're gonna have certain things that we don't want, our plan administrator of the county does not want nor should have the responsibility to do. May add some responsibilities for them, yes.
My thought process is that the city's performing those responsibilities now for them.
Their plan administrator would.
Yeah, so now we're creating more cost to the taxpayers for this to be implemented.
I don't know about more cost, I don't know.
Well, if somebody else, it's gonna take, there are two entities doing that work now, one for the city and one for the county. Those folks are gonna be still doing those responsibilities, but yet these two departments are gonna have to have someone do this for them. So we're adding more,
They're gonna have to carry those responsibilities themselves. Yes, certain responsibilities, yes.
Can you put this on a condition of a one time, or that there would be no guarantee to after a year's coverage?
Well,
I think you'd only be approving for a 1 year.
it,
Automatically?
everything, all the insurance in Glenn's right, is a year at a time.
I just hate for them to think that it would be continuous when another court might decide that, they may not want to continue that.
Well,
Being a city entity.
What's your pleasure? I'm here to argue with you. I'm just telling you what the request is.
I guess I've got a couple other questions. Will they be guaranteed the same rate that we're getting for the county employees? And then if that's the case, we've spent a great deal of time trying to develop a wellness program to improve our loss ratios. Well, I guess their numbers will factor in our loss ratios as well. If they're not doing anything to address those, it could potentially.
Could go up or could go down.
Right.
Judge, I'm just throwing this out here because it's pretty complicated issue at short notice. Would it be beneficial to maybe have a workshop the first of next week and a special meeting to address this and make sure we get this right? Because I just don't know enough about how we got to where we are and how it's gonna impact, all parties involved to feel comfortable voting on it. And that's just my opinion, but and I'm throwing it out there, so I'll leave it up to somebody else to comment.
One thing, December 31st is drop dead date.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And I suppose, and I haven't talked to the city, that they could, I would have to ask that they could remain on their policy. But I don't know.
I
thought
think
this
that's
was-
the problem. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
What seemed like just a simple thing to let it come on their policy is, maybe it's more complicated than I think it was. But
How will it affect future premiums if they come off of it?
John,
I know it works-
Henry
we
can
don't-
tell you about that. Premiums are based on loss
I know by
ratio.
numbers too, though, right?
What was the question, Don?
Okay, if you add, let's say 50 more employees onto the health plan, right? Does that give us a break
No.
on premium at all? Would it change?
When the prices were proposed, it allowed for a 10% variation either way, the numbers that actually rolled. And this would be 16, so it's less than 10%, so it doesn't have any impact on current,
Okay.
the 2015.
One other question. If you pick up, say, the 50 employees and you have 5 major illnesses that's been added into your total count, will that affect premium?
Could be. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, their claims history, would be, integrated with everything else. Looked at.
Is there a specific benefit to the county for doing this?
Just trying to help that group get insurance where they have been told that they might be losing. That's the benefit. And we've done it for the airport, and we've done it at one time for the museum to get them on it. Nothing is more important than the health insurance.
But,
We all know
but
that.
we've been funding them all along. I mean, we're the
I'm
main,
not,
the
yeah,
main
all of it
funders.
is, that's, what is the benefit? The benefit was to help 14 people get an insurance that they felt comfortable with, and 2 people at the chamber. That's the benefit. Now, if you don't want that benefit to them, will it help the county? Will it hurt the county? Who knows? 16 people out of about 225 or 240. That's the bottom line.
I'm mainly objecting to the timing. It seems to be a large policy move involving a purely city agency, and I object to the timing. I'm not sure, I don't know.
Well, the bottom line, and we discussed it, we got the affiliation agreement, which we've either got to sign or they don't get on. And if we can take a motion. If that's,
Do it for the 1 year, make sure.
is there a motion to
The motion.
authorize me to sign the affiliation agreement? Yes or no? And that applies for both the housing authority and the chamber, is that correct? I'll notify him. There is not a motion, so I'll notify him. As soon as this meeting's over, that the court wouldn't take any action on it. And we'll go from there.
Judge, let them know that our main reason for no action is the short time notice and the lack of information provided. I mean, with technology the way it is now, you know, we could have been informed, and someone neglected to do that, or whatever, but, you know, it's not that we don't want to take action. We just want to make sure the action that we take is the correct action.
Well, okay.
And we don't have enough information to do that.
Okay. Anyone else? Stacy, you have anything? Glenn, you have anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anyone else? Don't forget the ribbon cutting at 11 o'clock.